We've had some voice note submissions, much to Yusuf's excitement.
Much to my excitement. So here we go. We've got 3 from Adam, Daddy, and Liz. Let's begin with Adam. There's a very good story about this one, which you'll discover.
Right. So my question for you is, when I speak to people that are potential clients, they're signing up 9 times out of 10, I guess, because they understand the value or whatnot of what's being delivered. But I'm struggling to get enough of those people to speak to make it a sustainable business model. So the business is fine, but to grow it to the next level, I need to make that more repeatable. So where would you look to sort of sort that bottleneck out and fix that so that you can generate the leads into that position to where you're speaking to them? Because that's the thing that seems to be converting the best. Anyway, go for a walk.
So just to play that last bit back, because he sent the message and then he followed up with a DM to me that said, oh shit, I've just ended the message with go for a walk because I'm so used to saying that on my videos. So it was a reflexive go for a walk. Let's just hear that one more time.
Because that's the thing that seems to be converting the best. Anyway, go for a walk.
I think I've seen some of his content where go for a walk is like catch-all advice for everybody.
It's very good advice.
I agree. Yeah, very hard to fault that advice. Very, very difficult. The question, I think the first thing I would look at is where are you currently getting the people you are speaking to from? So like I think the way we approach lead generation is sort of back to front. So once you have a sales process that works, which you have, whatever it is that you're doing, like once you know that like when I get 5 leads, I make 1 sale, for example, then you've got the sales conversion part sorted, which is what a lot of people actually don't have. A lot of people have the opposite problem to what you're experiencing. Once you've got that, the best way to like increase the volume and the throughput, depending on how you're getting them in the first place, is to just run ads to whatever that process is, because then you let these platforms kind of take care of that for you. And even if the conversion drops slightly on the sales process, as long as you pay less per lead than you generate per lead, or even if you pay the same as you generate, if there's a recurring offer off the back of that, then that's a very profitable decision long term. But it kind of depends on how you're getting how the people you're currently speaking to, where are they from? Do you know that? I imagine you don't know that.
So yeah, I agree though. I think if you can replicate that process where someone comes into your world each time and they're not kind of random leads from different sources each time, then, and you're converting, I mean, from what Adam said, he's converting like 80 to 90%, like really high conversion. So in that situation, you can afford to play with it a little bit. You can afford to do things that might drop your conversion percentage in favor of getting more people in through the door. So you're clearly very trustworthy. It's that luscious Yorkshire accent. So when that happens, it means you can throw more leads at it. You can try shortening your challenge. You can try doing things that, because you know that the trust and the credibility and the authority and all that stuff is nailed. So you can do things that would just increase the lead flow and just throw as many people as you can at it. So you may not need sales calls. You might, this is where if we're working with someone who has a challenge operating at large scale, that's when we would start to say, okay, well, your conversion's really strong. What can we do to increase the automation level of the challenge and take the hit on the conversion so that profit still remains high or even goes up? And that's where you can say, okay, we'll just go to an automated challenge, because you no longer need the interaction and follow-ups and sales calls and all that stuff to maintain sales coming through the other end. So you can start to step away from the whole process and run it as an automation.
Yeah, if you take that to like its extreme, right? Like the most likely way of converting someone would be to like go to their house, speak with them for an hour, go through everything in lots of detail, drop your price down. Like there's loads of things you can do if you want to like explore that as a mental model. Like, well, how am I most likely to get the sale? It's that. And then, but obviously there's lots of downsides with that, and equally there's lots of downsides with sales calls and DMs and all the things that sort of involve your time. If we can still get something converting at break even or profitable without your involvement at all, that is like the dream scenario, because you can then start putting that time elsewhere, like producing pieces of content or building automations or building other sales funnels or other products that then generate even more revenue long term. I think the only thing I'd caution against is sometimes we speak to people who say things like, oh, I convert loads of people I speak to, my sales process works. And what they mean is like they'll get on a call with someone and sell to a high percentage of them. But actually all those people are like word of mouth, very warm audience, and like really all they had to do was like not fuck up the call and like be weird
Yeah,
on the
so they
call,
were
and they were
highly
already sold.
qualified leads in the first place. And so
Exactly.
that doesn't translate into cold ad audiences.
Yeah. So it's like, so let's say you, you're sensible and you've listened to a few of these podcasts and you think, I'm going to book a call with Johnny and Yusuf to buy PropaneBusiness, because obviously that'd be a fantastic investment. And I think you should definitely do that, by the way. So let's say you were going to do that. And I was like, wow, it must be what I said on the phone that sold that person. When actually the podcast is so good that you were sold anyway, right? As long as I wasn't weird on the phone, which I never am, by the way. So you should definitely book a call. As long as I'm not
He's a
weird
bit
on the
weird on
phone.
the phone.
No, not it's always when I finish the call, then I'm weird. Then like it's the podcast that's doing it, right? And then you think, well, how did they find the podcast? Well, maybe it was an ad that we were running that they jumped onto the email list, and then so actually saying my sales process is working, like really, it might actually be nothing to do with the sales process you have. So that's why it's so important to look at like where are these people coming from, because it could be the context that's happening before the conversation that's making it work. So scaling that up, like you start throwing cold audiences into that, and it might actually not work. It might be what's happening prior to the conversation that is causing the sale. So that's worth considering as well.
That's a very good point. That's also probably the part that most people don't see of the business. You've seen that we really go ham on the content, and that's why we put so much effort into the content, because that's really the sales process. That's the nurturing bit. We try and make it as fun and valuable as possible for you, so that when we speak on the phone, it's not really a sales call. It's seeing if it's a fit. It's seeing if we can actually help you with the problem that you've come to us with. And if we can't, we'll say, okay, sorry, we can't, but here are some other options or some other people that you can speak to. And then obviously there's the email automations and all the wizardry that Johnny's done behind the scenes on that front too.
And now you know how the magic trick works. But
Yeah.
it is, you're right. Like when we do the calls we do for PropaneBusiness is like it's more like gatekeeping. So it's like we don't want someone to buy the program that we can't help, who's going to stay in the program for months and months and feel frustrated and feel like that it's not a fit, right? And feel like, oh, well, I was expecting. It's like if someone buys your program and you're a weightlifting coach and they're buying it because they want to improve their 5K time, right? Like that's going to be frustrating for everybody. And that's even more likely to happen in a business situation. So that Yusuf's right. Like we have touched the mic so many times. We don't want the sales call to be a sales call. It's like, look, if you need me to convince you on the phone, we haven't done our job properly. Like it's the rest of the system should have done that up to this point, which is why you book a call in the first place. And you should definitely book a call, by the way, because they're great. But yeah, so Adam, I think it's really worth looking at, maybe going back and speaking to some of the people that have bought from you and said, like, what was it that prompted you to get in touch with me in the first place? Because that's the sequence that you need to double down on. Because let's say you are doing sales calls, it sounds like he might be. If I gave you 50 strangers, is the process still going to work? Probably not. If it's just straight to a call, which is why everyone finds that process so unpleasant and so frustrating. That's why we teach a 14-day challenge, because like, how do you take a stranger and bring them to the point where they might buy from you? Like there is a process they have to go through. How do we condense that? 14-day challenge.
The stress testing that you've described there is really valuable as well. So you can say, what could I take away from this sales process and for it still to work? Or how much could I take away and still keep the conversion above 50%?
Yep.
Okay, how much could I take away and still keep conversion above 30%? And that's fine. You don't have to keep all your KPIs, all your numbers as high as possible, because they come at a cost, don't they? So, you can test that out and say, well, if I removed the call and if I shortened my challenge and if I removed a bit of the interaction here, and if I removed a bit of this, then I've freed up a bit of time, freed up a bit of money to then spend on lead flow, and then the machine works more smoothly and I get more customers in through the door, even if I take a hit on some people who would have bought but would have needed a lot more attention and time to get there.
You could apply the same mental model to pricing as well. I realize this is kind of getting away from Adam's question, but like if you are converting 90% of people you speak to and no one is saying like, that's a bit much, the chances are, and I know this is a weird thing to think about when you want more customers in general, but the chances are you could increase your price and maybe convert slightly fewer people, but probably still generate more total revenue. So it's like finding this sweet spot with your pricing where actually you're working with people who can afford your service and it's still an affordable service. But you're never going to be able to work with everybody, because otherwise, like, why are you not pricing it at 1 pence or 2 pence or 50p or a pound, right? Like, there has to be this middle ground. So if no one is telling you that your service is too expensive, chances are there's still some laxity in that, and you could increase the price without really decreasing your revenue and increasing the profit and the revenue per head in your program, which means you can afford to hire coaches to support you and all that sort of stuff. So, and I'll go for a walk later.